The perfect West Coast IPA is crisp, it's aggressively pungent, and it's still bright and effervescent. And today we're going to show you everything you need to know to make it. Let's start with the malt! With the West Coast IPA, it's actually really important that you keep the malt bill super simple. So other than the 2-row that I have in here, if I want to build any complexity, it's probably going to be with another relatively light grain like Munich or Vienna. This is the recipe I'm going to be using today. I'm only going for about 6.5% on this recipe, but if you want to go any higher, stop using malt. It's really important so that you don't over-sweeten your beer, that you get the extra alcohol percentage from dextrose, which is corn sugar. When it comes to water chemistry, there's two things that we're concerned with. One is overall, this is gonna be a more minerally beer than some other styles. And two, we're gonna go for a high sulfate to chloride ratio. Now, this is the overall water profile that we're going for, but you're gonna want those sulfates to chlorides to be somewhere in the 2:1 to 5:1 ratio. What this is gonna do is pronounce those hops a little bit more and make sure that the overall beer tastes brighter and crisper. As always, we're gonna be adding some ascorbic acid to keep this beer fresh, and we're just gonna add all this into our mash and go get mashed in at about 152 degrees. So we're aiming for a relatively low mash temp, not super low, but what that low mash temp is gonna do is make sure that this beer stays dry and crispy. We definitely don't wanna be mashing in too high where this thing's gonna come in nice and thick. If it's too thick, that's gonna take away from the flavor of the hops. And since we want those hops to shine, the lower mash temp is definitely the way to do it. So the mash is all done and this guy's up at a boil, but it's getting a little noisy and kind of chaotic weather out here, so I'm gonna take you guys back into the brew house and then we'll talk about the hopping schedule. All right, so now that we're back in the brew house and we got our beer heated back up to a boil, let's talk about our strategy for the hops we're gonna use in this style of beer. So our goal here is to balance some dank, pungent aggression with some more fruity hops that are gonna give you an overall aggressive but still bright layout in this beer. And this has a lot to do with water chemistry, but how we hop the beer is also gonna play a big role. As you'll see with the hopping schedule right here, we actually move a lot of the hopping towards the middle and back end of this beer without just going straight whirlpool like we would for a New England style IPA. Our bittering addition at 30 minutes is going to be Centennial Cryos. We're gonna use this because it does have a higher cohumulon bite, a good overall neutral presence, but it's still high enough alpha to get us the bitterness that we're going to need. And this is a lot of hops because 1 ounce of cryo hops is worth 2 ounces of pellet hops. We're then going to have a 2-ounce addition of Mosaic pellets at 5 minutes. A little bit before this, we are going to add some Warflock to make sure this beer clears up and is nice and bright. But this is going to give us the fruitiness that'll balance out the more dank aggression that we'll get off of something like Amarillo. For the Amarillo, we're going to be doing this at a hop stand and or flame out addition. Again, this is to account for the time that it's going to take to chill down the wort. We're going to be adding this as soon as we kill the heat, and then we have one more cryo Amarillo that is going to be our dry hop. Again, that is for some dank qualities as well as a little fruitiness that you'll get from the Amarillo. We like to make sure we have some of this green matter from pellet hops and not all cryo hops, because if you went all cryo hops, the overall perception of the beer ends up being a little bit too soft. So we like to balance that out. Other hops that you can throw in this would be something like Columbus for that extra dankness, or Chinook for the same kind of aggression that you get off of Centennial. The yeast you're going to want to use for this style is a classic American yeast. It's going to be crisp and bright and really push forward the flavors of the beer that you're looking for, just like this Independence here. Now when it comes to dry hop, the dry hopping schedule for a West Coast IPA is different than that of a New England IPA. A New England IPA, you're going to want to dry hop in what's called a biotransformation dry hop, basically adding the hops to your beer when your beer looks like this. The West Coast style, however, you want to wait until your beer is all the way crashed out so you can get that accentuated brightness and some different aromatics off of your dry hop about 3 days before you package. At this point, your beer should be clear and pretty much ready to drink other than that dry hop addition, and will look something like this. Thanks so much for watching this episode. If you learned something, please leave a comment below and let us know. Subscribe to the channel if you like videos like this, and let us know if you want us to do, I don't know, a Belgian or a Northwest style IPA breakdown next, or just a different style of beer. Cheers, thanks for watching, all that stuff, and we'll see you next time. Bye.